Mm-hmm. Oh, help if I can. Thought it was green there. Yes. If the camera was up. I'm gonna cover. Hold on. Right. We are live on both Speaking Out and Facebook and YouTube. Let's just see if I can get this up for the comments. Otherwise, I'll not be able to see what anyone's saying to me. Oh, thank you. Right. So hopefully have a few people come on. I don't think we're going to get... I'm being given sweets by my daughter. She chooses her moments. So, do we have anyone coming on tonight? Oh, we have one so far. Okay, so hello everyone. I do apologise last week. Unfortunately, I have been unwell and the cold hit me a bit. So I completely forgot it was Thursday and I didn't realise that until Friday. So I do apologise that this show should have actually been last week. But we're going to do it this week anyway. And this week is kind of a touchy subject. So I am going to put a trigger warning. So anybody that has any sort of PTSD from childhood trauma or anything that they maybe don't want to hear or might set up some issues, maybe a topic not to listen to this one. Because today we're going to be talking about dealing with and healing from childhood trauma and things that may have affected your adult life that happened back when we were children. Now, being raised late 80s, early 90s is a lot different to now. And even in just the 20 years of having my daughter, there's so much changed during parenting and during the whole upbringing of children and everything like that. So back when we were younger, things were a lot different. There is things that's probably going to be brought up that if my mum is watching or my dad, then maybe this might not be a one for you. It may bring up some old wounds, or maybe one that some things may come up that either we don't need to relive or we don't need to reminded of. But unfortunately, it's stuff that's now being brought to light from the way I act and the way I see others acting that maybe should have been addressed back when we were kids, or maybe should have been addressed back as sort of that generation growing up. Obviously, as we all know, back in the 80s, early 90s, as I've said, things were a lot different with childhood. We were raised a lot different than what they are now. For one, we didn't have screens. There's a lot of, I mean, a lot of people may not have realised, and I do have people from my childhood, school, and times on my Facebook, so you may know who you are, or you may know who they were, or certain issues and stuff. I wasn't exactly the most, what do you say, popular. I was known, people knew me, but I wouldn't exactly say I was the most popular of people. I was either known for being bullied or known for standing up to the bullies. But that wasn't until later on in my years, until about year 10, 11, that I started standing up to them. What people also didn't realise, that not all of my bullies were actually at school. And it is only pop. So I have childhood trauma from home. I have childhood trauma from school. I have trauma from after I left school. So it's been quite a rocky road. If anyone wants to leave any comments or leave your stories or comment about anything, obviously, like I said, there's a fair few of you that was raised in the same years as me, the late 80s, early 90s. You know what's being said. You know how things were raised. You know how things went at school. There's a few of you that was there. There's a few of you that took part. I'm not going to mention names. You know who you are and stuff like that. But anyway, one of my traumas that stands out with me, and I don't know if other people have it, but it's only just been brought to light with me. I didn't see it as a problem, to be fair, until it's just been brought to light. When I was younger, my mum had took my siblings to Haggerston Castle, and they'd been taken away without my obviously they didn't need my consent. I just didn't know, while I was at my dad's house, so I didn't have no sort of did you want to go, did you not want to go, it was just basically, she's at her dad's house, we're going to Haggerston Castle. Now, looking back, I never, yes, I got upset, yes, but I got a big teddy out of it. I got one of the big tigers. So my mum brought me a big tiger back. So I was a bit upset because I got left out, but I got a big tiger, and that was it. Back of my head, dealt with, done, over and done with. Which I did with quite a lot of my childhood trauma, to be fair. And back then, back in the 80s, 90s, kids were not saying you didn't have trauma, you didn't have anything like that. Kids were never supposed to have that sort of thing back in the late 80s, early 90s, and even before then. Kids didn't have depression, they had no reason for it. Kids didn't have trauma, they had no reason for it. Doesn't matter what their parents did to them, doesn't matter what their friends did to them at school. You didn't have trauma, it was just part of life. You grew up. You dealt with it, you moved on, you moved, it got brushed to the back of your head. And that's what happened with a lot of my issues, was you dealt with it, you had a few tears, that was it, over and done with, you cried about it, you moved on. And sometimes you wouldn't even cry about it, because then you would get the, oh, stop crying, what are you crying for? If you keep crying, I'm going to give you something to cry for. Which is one of the most, me and my girls always laugh about that, saying, don't stop crying, I'm going to give you something to cry for. Well, I'm already crying, so what difference does it make? I'm still going to keep crying. But yes. So anyway, back to this event, which I didn't realise it had caused an actual trauma until I'd gotten with somebody, and even then it still didn't link, the dots didn't connect. He went away, and I told him, fair enough, when you go, while you're away, do not send me no pictures. And he asked me why, and I explained, and he didn't actually bring it to my attention. He was just like, all right, fair enough, whatever. And he sent me one picture, and that was just because it had a white tiger in it. But now I'm with somebody who does like to go away more often and likes to sort of have that time away. Now, I said the same thing to him. If you go away with the lads, you go away, do whatever. Do not send me any pictures. But he did ask me why. He asked why I didn't want any pictures sending. So I put it over. I can't sit and look at people's holiday pictures. And again, he asked why, like, being curious, asking him why I couldn't look at other people's holiday pictures. I says, because I don't want to see the person that I'm with out having fun and enjoying themselves at another country or somewhere that I can't be there with them, and which, while I'm sat at home doing sweet FA, while I'm sat at home being bored and being sitting like if we can sitting the way any other day would be. I can't bring myself to do that. Now, to them, that sounded selfish. To me, that sounded ordinary. It was something I couldn't do. It was something I couldn't bring myself to do. I can't look at other people's pictures, holiday photos. I don't pay attention to them. If they're on Facebook, I don't pay attention to them. And I have been asked the question, so why do you post pictures? So why do I post pictures of my holidays and my events if I can't bring myself to look at other people's? And the answer to that is because I don't mind people looking at my pictures, and I don't mind people, like, if they want to have a look at my pictures or they want to see what I've been up to, then fine. I can't bring myself to do it to them, especially if it's out the country, because that makes me feel like I'm failing the girls. It makes me feel like I'm failing as a mother. It makes me feel in so many different ways I can't explain. Now, after speaking, and it was my dad that I spoke to, and I brought it to my dad's attention because of my partner mentioning it, and he had said it's not, kind of understand, but it's not right. It's not normal. It is absolutely normal for people to want to look at other people's pictures. It's absolutely normal for people to want to look at holiday pictures and see their partner or their friends and family having fun. It's not so normal. There's a reason normally for you to not be able to do that. And it's not just the fact that I'm being a twat and I don't want to do it, or I'm just being nasty and being horrible and just saying, nah, I don't wanna look, I don't wanna see them. It's the fact that I physically cannot bring myself to look. And I've just now recently made that link that maybe this is potentially because I was left out of holidays with my family. Because I can't say it was just my mum. My dad went away with my siblings as well, and I was left with my mum. But my mum was the one that had custody of me, so it was more expected of my dad than it was my mum. Plus, there was issues with my mum and dad. Um, so it's kind of just sort of that trauma leading from being a child, of being left behind from holidays, left out from day trips, from holidays, from other family stuff, being the eldest and being between my mum and dad, and that trauma is followed into adulthood without me even realizing. And because we were taught not to speak, we were taught not to deal with it. Our dealing with it was basically brushing it back. Our dealing with it was letting it go, not having nothing. That was it. It was nothing. You were overreacting. You were being silly. You were just being soft, and that was well. I can't say for everybody in the 80s, 90s, but that was basically a lot of my upbringing. Was you're being soft. You're not. You're just being silly. You're being selfish. You weren't here to do that stuff with. You were over your dads, you were over your mums, you were over this place. So you weren't here to do that stuff with, so we did it without you. So yes, I've just to say that I sort of didn't realize until recently so much childhood trauma could actually stick with you into adulthood that you didn't actually realize was there. mean, you get adults that you can obviously see they've had trauma. You can get adults that will drag their childhood trauma through their life, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying you can see that there is adults that you can tell has had trauma, and then there's adults that you can't tell. They get on with life. They just deal with life as it is and brush the rest aside. They'll sit quiet. They'll hide their sorrows. They'll hide their tears behind laughter. Mine personally, again, I can't speak for everybody. I wish people would come on and tell their stories. I know it is so hard to speak up, and it's so not many people like to get into everything. Um, but I've lost my train of thought. um, but yes, it is so hard. Uh, we I have lost my train of thought now. I'm going to have to jump to a different um different comment because I was. But yes, I wish we could get a lot more stories, a lot more people's stories other than just my own. Not that like I've said in previous um videos, I will not ask you to do something that I will not do myself. So if there's ever a video that's up, I will always share stories of my own. And if I have any stories on that subject, then I will share them. I won't expect people to share stories that I am not willing to do myself. Um, so yes, back. So as I was saying, a lot of trauma. This is not what I was saying. I forgot what I was saying, but we'll start again. Start with something new. A lot of child. For me personally, I I disguise a lot of my trauma when I'm feeling a bit crap, bit of a crap day. A lot of my emotions, fears, trauma, any sort of negative feelings and emotions tend to come out more as humor. I disguise a lot of it with humor. I'll make jokes out of pretty much anything. If I feel uncomfortable, I'll make jokes. If I feel upset, I'll make jokes. If I feel angry, I'll make sarcastic remarks or jokes. Humor is a lot of my disguise for trauma. Either humor or self withdrawal. I'll withdraw. I'll be quiet. I'll be distant. And I won't know why. I'll sit and not have a clue why I'm so distant with people. But then I'll find it so difficult to speak up. And again, people of my age and older I think find it a lot difficult to speak up because of our childhood and because of the way we were raised, because we were told to sit down, shut up, children should be seen, not heard. Yes, exactly. When you're asking people if they're okay and how you doing and stuff, one word answers. That's another way to sit. Usually, for somebody that's quite bubbly, quite talkative, quite um, speaks quite a lot and can speak up about any pretty much anything. To go down to one word answers and go down to just I'm okay, yeah, no, and that tends to be quite a trauma um, trigger, telltale sign. Sorry, I I know I've put on the title is dealing with and healing from trauma and traumatic events or childhood trauma and stuff like that. But truthfully, if I'm truthfully with you guys and stuff like that, there is a lot of my childhood trauma anyway that I don't actually think I dealt with. I think a lot of my childhood, just getting spied on, my daughter's walked in the room. It is a coping mechanism, Jay, yes. I think a lot of my childhood trauma are more pushed to the back of my head, and then that was it. That was done. And for so many years, I didn't believe that I had childhood trauma. I didn't accept the fact that there was any such thing as childhood trauma. It was only till, like I said, recently where things have started coming out, and I did get a bit of counselling and a bit of. I spoke to a few people, and a few things it's have started being brought to my attention that could have been dealt with during childhood. So I may not have been as paranoid now as what I am if certain things have been dealt with. If I dealt with, if I'd felt comfortable enough as a child to speak out to my parents about things, then maybe I wouldn't be so paranoid to speak up about stuff when stuff's bothering me. Um, and a lot of, because obviously, like I said, things were different back then. Things were not the same. Children weren't meant to be heard. We weren't meant to have emotions. We were like little robots, basically. And that just wasn't something that children didn't have a voice. We never had a voice back then. And I think a lot of our problems now stem from not being able to speak up, not being able to say, Mom, this is happening, Dad, this is happening, Dad, this, Mom, I want, like, I need to talk to you about this, Dad, I need to talk to you about this. I think there's a lot of events during my childhood where I could have done with being more open and being able to speak with my parents a lot easier would have helped. Um, Now, I've always made it a point always with my two girls, made it a point to try and ensure them that I'm there if they need to talk. I'm not going to push them to speak unless I think they need to. There has been times where I have had to push the girls to speak when I think something's really bothering them and I know that they're holding back. I'm not a new parent. My eldest daughter's nearly 20-year-old next month. My youngest one's 16. I know them girls like the back of my hand. I know when they're hiding stuff. I probably know their minds better than I know my own. And I wish as a kid that I probably could have had that confidence to go with my mum and dad about things. I'm sure there's traumatic events that people in the comments. I know I've had a few comments tonight. Thank you, everybody, for not comments, sorry, a few viewers. Thank you, everyone, for supporting, and I do appreciate it. I do appreciate all the views and the comments, and I've had the same situation, Jay, but not so much with being beaten. I mean, again, people at school and people outside the home and stuff like that don't see what goes on behind closed doors. And going back to talking about the trauma from school and being bullied or being targeted, or I mean, it was a lot of the guys that did the bullying. There's always feeling looked down on by a lot of the lasses, and always feeling like I wasn't worth much. That was just by school friends. But going back to then and talking about that moment in time, and I'd wish so many more parents would make their children aware of this. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what that child is dealing with back at home. Because yes, I had bullies at school, and I had people that would wind me up, and I had people that would torture the life out of me until I started fighting back. But I also had a bully at home. When my mum got heavy on the drink, my mum also became a bully. My dad became the one that had his hands tied and couldn't do much to protect. My mum had custody of me. My mum was the heavy drinker, and my dad's hands were kind of tied. So although I was getting bullied at school, I was then going home to get bullied at home. And being the eldest, I got the brunt of it. And this is why so many people need to educate their kids on bullying, need to educate their kids on looking out for people that can't look out for themselves. Because you do not know what that child is going through when they go back home. My childhood trauma followed me into my teenage years and into my adult years. And this might be a sore point that I hope, if my mum or dad is watching, you might want to cut off now. To the point that, and this isn't just from my mum and dad, by the way, this was from people at school, people at college, ex-boyfriends, to the point that at the age of 14-year-old was the first time I tried to commit suicide. Oops. I do apologise, YouTube and Facebook. The first time I tried to unalive myself. I've got to remember to watch those words. So, 14 was the first time I tried. And I have been in that state of mind on and off ever since. I have tried multiple times. I'm not very successful at it, as you can see, because I'm still here. The last time I was pretty close. The last time my dad does know, my mum does know, my friends, closer friends, my children do know. And that was because of, as you'll have heard if you followed my videos, in a previous video I was talking about a narcissistic ex-partner, and that was because of him. I think as well, when you do have trauma that comes from childhood, sometimes you can sort of look for comfort in the wrong places. Sometimes you'll look for love in anything and anyone. You'll see love in fake people that sit telling you anything that they think that you basically want to hear. Yeah, that day, Jonathan, there was only 3 messages sent out, and I think if he had, the one thing he did right was wake up, because if he hadn't, I wouldn't be here today. So we have that to thank him for, I guess. But a lot, like I said, a lot of childhood trauma, especially back when we were young, goes unnoticed for one reason or another. Whether it be because of things happening at school and it's been passed off as just kids being kids, whether it's things happening at home and the child's too scared to speak up. I have had a couple of things that a few people don't know. I would go home from my dad's crying because I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be going back to my mum's when we lived at Hartlepool because of the person that she was with. I didn't like him. I didn't trust him. And I specifically didn't like him when he tried to do something with a 14-year-old girl that he shouldn't be, which led to my first unaliving attempt, because I just didn't want to be there. And I couldn't be with my dad. Couldn't stay with my dad, so I didn't want to be there. And I was a daddy's girl. I loved my daddy. And truth be told, I probably am still a daddy's girl. But I do love my mum and my dad both now. I get along with my mum now. We had our moments, we've had our issues. My mum is now 14 years clean and sober. I say clean, she never did drugs, but she's 14 years off the tabs, 14 years off or cigarettes for my American friends, and 14 years sober. Me and my mum get along absolutely brilliant now. My daughters both adore their nana. I'm obviously still a daddy's girl. Still love my dad. Yeah, I've always been a daddy's girl, Beryl. As much as my dad had his moments, and my dad did, it wasn't perfect. I was always a daddy's girl. And I think that was one of my mum's triggers. My mum, I don't think my mum liked that I was a daddy's girl. I apologise, Mum, if you're watching it, but I really don't think that you liked that I was a daddy's girl. I know my heart goes out to you. I couldn't imagine losing either one of my parents, to be fair. And I can't imagine when that time does come. Um, the there's so many traumatic events that I could share with you guys that has shaped me into the. Don't get me wrong. I'm the person I am today because of the events I went through as a child. And I'd say I'm the strong person, but I have my moments. I'm not always as strong as everybody perceives me to be. I have my moments where I'll cave and I'll fall just as much as any other person. And where I'll have my moments where I'm just drained and down for no apparent reason whatsoever. And I'll not know why. But the events that happened to me, I like to see them as they are the reason that I am who I am today. They're the reason I am the mother I am to my girls. If it wasn't for how I was treated differently to my siblings, then I may not be the way I am with my girls, making sure that both of my girls are treated exactly the same. If one gets, the other one gets. I do not get one without the other. I may get to the point where I can't get them both at the same time, but I do not get one without the other. And that is part of my childhood trauma. I make sure that I'm not overpowering with my girls. but I'm also strict but firm and fair. I don't want to be over the top of them, but I do like to know where they are. Up to a certain point, I would check their phones. I would basically, yes, I'd discipline them, but I wouldn't discipline them in the way that I was disciplined. That's not to say that I haven't, when they were younger, given them a little tap on the bottom or anything like that. I can probably count on the one hand how many times. And I will put my hands up and I will admit to that. I'm not going to sit there and deny that they might have not have had a tap on the bottom when they've, how do you put it, without sounding stepped out of line. They're not little soldiers. I hate that saying, when they've stepped out of line. Are they little soldiers, are they? So many sayings of when I was a child that I don't understand as an adult. But then there's so many feelings and emotions because I never expressed them as a child and I never got to feel them as a child. I really don't think I understand them as an adult. And this has just come to light as well, that I thought it was normal. And I was talking to my brother who is being diagnosed with ADHD. He's getting tested, sorry, for ADHD. And he was going through some things, and I'm like, well, isn't that just normal? He said, hiya, Tiggy. And he's like, no, Lisa, it's not normal. I don't understand feeling emotion unless I've been through that act myself. So I don't understand the loss of something or someone unless I've been through that loss myself. I don't understand the emotion of losing a £20 note unless I've been through that emotion myself. I can only sympathise and understand that emotion if I've been through it. It's like, I can laugh, I can cry, I can do all basic emotions and stuff like that. But the feeling of empathy, the feeling of other stuff, I thought it was just ordinary, and apparently it isn't. And I think that is another, personally, I think that's another trauma effect from not being able to express any sort of emotion as a child, unless it was happiness. You could express happiness until your heart's content, if it was fine. But not being able to express the fact that you were sad unless it was a major reason. Just because you felt sad that day, there must be a reason why you feel sad. To express other feelings and other emotions because you didn't know how they were, you didn't know how that person felt, you didn't know this or you didn't know that, so you couldn't express that, or you couldn't possibly understand. You were too young to understand anything like that. And I think now, being older, it's difficult to actually express those emotions or to feel those emotions, or to even know if you're feeling those emotions. And to deal with them is sort of like having to learn all over again from being a child what emotions are, how you deal with said emotions. How can you deal with sadness and frustration and anger when you don't know what is making you sad and frustrated and angry? So we as the title states, the we're supposed to be talking about the dealing with and the healing from it. I think I've spoke a lot about the effects of childhood trauma and it going into adulthood, and give you one or two stories, my stories. And these are, like I said, these are personal stories. I wouldn't ask anybody or expect anybody to share any stories that they are not willing to share, or anything that I wouldn't be willing to share myself. Um, and that's, like I said, I've spoke a lot about the effects of childhood trauma, the dealing with it and healing from it. I think my healing came a lot with my mum's healing. I think for me to heal, and this may sound selfish, it may sound wrong, I don't know how it's going to sound. It might sound better in my head than it does. For me to heal, I think my mum had to heal first. I had to see my mum heal from my alcoholism and from her trauma and from her problems, for me to heal from my problems and my issues, because a lot of my healing needed to come from making amends with my mum. And me and my mum didn't speak for 2 years. We had no contact for 2 years. That was 2 years of my youngest daughter's life. She lost with her nana. My eldest daughter obviously lost 2 years as well, but my youngest had just been born. And that was traumatic, not being able to speak to my mum, knowing exactly where she lived, seeing her in the town and walking past, not pointing her out to the girls, not saying, "Oh, there's Nana," or anything like that. Um, that was a traumatic time, and I think a lot of, like I said, a lot of my healing had to come from my mum healing. Once my mum got over hers and her alcoholism, and she calmed down, she stopped being violent, and she started being the person that we all knew she could be, then a lot of my healing came with that, because I seen the mother in her that I knew she could be. I seen the nana in her that I knew she could be. I didn't look at her and just see disgust and shame and like I did as a child. And I do apologise, Mum, if you're on here, because I've never said that before to my mum. As a child, I was ashamed when I would walk home, and if my mum was there, or if we would end up in the pub with a packet of crisps for tea, because my mum would be down the pub or the bar. I mean, my mum always had food in for us, always made sure that the fridge was full and the house was clean. It was just her drinking, that made her vicious. Vicious with her mouth and vicious with her hands. So yeah, a lot of my healing had to come with that. A lot more healing had to come with myself understanding that I need to see myself in a different light. I need to see myself as a stronger person. I need to see my own worth and not see it from the worth of other people. I don't need other people to tell me that I'm worthy to know that I'm worthy of what I've got. I don't need other people to show interest as much as it hurts when close people don't show interest or close people stop showing interest, should we say, for no apparent reason. And it becomes upsetting and it becomes hurtful. I did come to realise that I don't need it. I don't need other people to show me my own worth. And I think that's where a lot more healing came with that than and it's the same with all you guys. You don't need other people to show you your worth. Each and every one of yous are worth so much in your own way, in every bit of every fibre that yous are worth so much. And the only person that can truly bring down your worth is yourself. And that's if you allow other people to do it. Or you allow yourself to do it. I sit and tell myself I'm worthless, I'm no good, I'm this, I'm that. And I'm the only person that can bring down my worth. There's somebody else sitting there now telling me that you're worthless, you're nothing, you're this, is nothing anymore. There's nothing people can tell me that I haven't told myself. You're ugly, you're worthless, you're not worth, you're stupid, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, you're not going to get nowhere, you're not going to get the... So what? Let them say it. They're wasting their own breath. And the only, like I said, the only person that can actually stop you from doing it is you, if you don't go ahead and try. So much healing has to come from your own self rather than from other people. So much self-worth has to be seen by yourself. Self-worth should never come from anybody else. Worth should never come from anybody else. If you give your worth and you allow somebody else to hold your worth in their hands, you're giving them the power over you to break you. And nobody should have that power over you. Whether it be a parent, a sibling, a sister, brother, I did say sibling, child, nobody should have that worth, that your self-worth. That's why it's called self-worth. Because that's your worthless of yourself. And like I say, me understanding what I'm worth was a lot of what I needed to work on. I have had people recently tell me that my work was shit. I've had people tell me that stuff I do throughout the years, that it's pointless, that I'm wasting time, you're never going to get nowhere, that it's but for all those people that do try to bring me down and do try to tear down every bit of fibre that I've got, I will keep standing back up. I will keep going, and so should all you. Childhood trauma is childhood. It was back in the childhood, and as much as we need to deal with it and we need to heal from it, we also need to not dwell on it. We can't allow our childhood trauma to affect our adult life. What happened as children, what happened as teenagers, it happened. We need to, and that's how we need to see it. Not everybody is a bad person. Not everybody is a good person. Not everybody's there to bring our worth down. Some are there to build us back up. We just need to see who are the right ones. We need not to be afraid to walk away from those who will tear us down. We need to, sometimes it's scary, but at times we need to take just a couple of steps back and actually see who's there for us. Take a couple of steps back and see who will speak out. If you don't stand up, if you don't message first, who will? Who will message you first and ask, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Because I know I've done it and a lot of people dropped if I don't message first. And those are the people that are not so much worth sticking around if they can't see your self-worth and your worth. You don't need people that's just going to tear you down. You certainly don't need people that's going to use your traumas to drag you even further than what you would probably drag yourself. Jonathan, I don't think I could ever get rid of you. I'd go to the other end of the world and you'd still find me. And it's still weird calling you Jonathan. If I ever mention Jay, that is Jonathan. So we, as I mentioned, the healing part and the dealing with it is more self image. You look at yourself, you see if it's the person that you want. Yes, it can get to where you need to see other people doing it, such as my mum. My mum had to heal for me to heal, because I couldn't heal without my mum healing, because me and my mum would have just gone on roundabouts the rest of our life. If my mum didn't heal, I wouldn't have. Um, so my mum had to be the one to heal first, as much as we didn't know it at the time. I think she definitely had to be the one to heal first, because, like I said, we would have just been on roundabouts and we'd still be in the same situation as we were back 14 years ago. No, you're not in trouble. Um, so yes, sometimes the healing does need to start with somebody else, but that other person won't always do the healing, and a person can only heal for themselves. You can't make a person heal. You can't force them to heal. You can't force a person with addiction to stop. Believe me, I've been through people with addiction twice. One with my mum, one with my ex-husband. One with alcohol, one with drugs. You cannot force a person with addiction to heal. The only time they'll do it is for themselves. Both my mum and my ex-husband lost everything because of addiction. And I'm happy that my mum did see what she was doing, and she came round to it. My ex-husband, unfortunately, I don't know. Last I heard, he lost everything. My mum came round to it, and she did her healing, which helped me and my brother. My sister, not so much. My sister went down the same path as my mum, but me and my brother, I think we healed a bit from my mum. My brother, I can't speak for my brother, but he seemed to have healed a bit from it. Me, I healed. It helped me heal and move on, to be able to see that my mum was the better person for getting off the drink. And once I had my mum back and I had my relationship back with her, then and only then was I able to start healing myself, once I had my mum back. And but as I said at the beginning, there's still things now that comes to light that evidently I didn't heal from, such as the being left behind as a child. I never thought that that was even a problem until recently. The paranoia of men with my children, because of what I went through with my mum's ex-partner. And that makes me paranoid of men. It's like, this is a man that my mum had moved in with. This is a man that lived with us. And people, we sit there telling our kids to be careful of the people around the corner, be careful of the man next door, be careful of the man that wanders the streets down the town. But we seem to forget about, be careful of the man that lives with us, be careful of the woman that lives with us, be careful of the person that comes in the house and comes to eat dinner with us every week. Be careful of the person that comes to stay with us. We seem to forget about those people, and the people that's up forefront, and that paranoids me when I had the girls. Again, I didn't even realise that I had that sort of paranoia. I never thought that that sort of thing bothered me until 20 years ago, and I had my daughter, and I started becoming paranoid of men around her. I didn't really speak out of it because I thought it was a bit daft. I thought I was just being stupid. I was just being a parent. But then to think of it in more depth, I am probably more paranoid, have been paranoid of men around them. Because of what I went through with my mum's ex, and with one of my exes when I was younger, and then my exes as I've getting older. Like I said, there's stories and people on here that knows things that don't, other people that don't know things. And if there's any sort of anybody that needs any help or anything to either deal with these sort of traumatic issues from childhood, even adulthood, it doesn't have to be from childhood, needs any sort of help or anything, by all means, please reach out to the page. And I'll help as much as I possibly can for you. I'll help get you, guide you in the right direction if I can, or get you help if I can, or anything I can possibly do to help with whatever needs to be helped with. Anyway, guys, we have gone an hour and 20 minutes. We're getting longer and longer. And we have had more viewers tonight, some new viewers I've seen creep in. Wayne Coxon, Donna Lamb, Sarah Clark, Gareth Scullion, Jennifer Sheraton, Amy Fortune, Margaret Ridley, Janet Brown, you were in the last one, thank you. Heather Baxter, Nicola Miller, Marie Cowell, Natasha Wilkin, Kimberly Mann, Kim Rankin, Lorraine Davison, Melly Wood, Tony Lee, Patrick Quinn, Tony Clarkson, Chloe Hubble, Dylan Revel, Grace Deacon, Emmon Brown, Bethany Daniels, Vicky Burns, Jean Stevens, Beth Gunn, David Border. These are all our Jenny's in. Jenny's been in a couple of them. These are all new faces. Thank you so much for coming and watching. Janet Thornton, thank you. Whether you watch, whether you view, whichever, any support is more than welcome and so appreciated. I do really want to keep this going each week and keep getting more and more stories, and hopefully get some of you on the live with me and get you speaking out fearlessly. It would be awesome to have more stories than just having me rambling on to myself or rambling on to you guys and talking your ears off. It would be amazing to get some more stories and to get some more intel and insight into how we can help each other and how we can help other people. And because that's what this is mainly all about. Yes, I'm telling stories and I'm telling my views on stuff and stuff like that, but it's hopefully to help you. I did have one person come to me and tell me that basically, and this was about on the narcissistic one, and they told me that everything I'd mentioned about this narcissistic partner that I had, they had just gone through and they had just been dealing with the same thing. And for my one of my videos to be reached out and to say that basically this is what they're going through, this is exactly what this is, and for them to understand that this is narcissism, and my videos is sort of explaining certain things and showing that you're not alone, because there's so many of us that go through these things quietly and we don't speak up and we don't speak out to who we need to be speaking out to, and we do sit in the shadows and just don't say anything basically, and just put on a brave face, put on a smile, and hide behind glazed eyes. That this is why this channel is here. If anybody wants to reach out to us, you do not, well, I say to us, but to me, you just do not have to wait for the videos to come up. You just can private chat, private message, or leave a comment, or leave a status on the pages. You just can either private chat this page, or you can go private chat speaking out fearlessly page, or even the YouTube page. We are here to help. That is what the page is for. As much as we have, as much as I'm sitting rambling on and I'm sitting giving stories of my life and stuff like that, to try and show people you're not alone. We are here to help. We're here to talk, even if it's just a daft chat, even if it's a video chat and a cup of tea. It might be enough to help someone. That's what the page is made for, to help people understand different scenarios, different ways of life, different things that different people go through. Not everything in life is rainbows and sunshines and black and white. That's not how life is for some people. And it's an awkward way to think that some people think that life is that way. So I'm going to stop rambling your ears off. I am going to let you all go have your teas or chill out for the night. And I will see you next Thursday. So next Thursday, I am going to be chatting about see. I think next Thursday we'll be chatting about the effects and being in a poisonous and an ABUSE. Sorry, there's no E. It's IVE relationship. and coming out of it. I am going to try and get a particular person into this one. They may or may not. I cannot promise. But I'm going to try and see if they will. If they will, it will be awesome to get them in, because there should be a good back and forth between the two. But if you would like to join next week's chat, next Thursday, 6 p.m. UK time, then drop a message, a like, follow, jump over to YouTube, please, and subscribe. That would be awesome. And just drop a comment or a private chat that you would like to join us on next week's live, and we will see what we can do to get you in. But for now, stay safe and goodbye for now.